Hello and welcome everybody to the Zac and Tav Podcast.
Welcome.
This is episode number 2, where we'll be talking about one of our favorite gaming franchises, the Pokémon game series. And despite the recent games being more highly criticized, that these games used to be quite good and very fun.
Yeah, today we're talking about our first Pokemon experiences, what old Pokemon games we played and what we thought of them, and modern Pokemon games too. Then, of course, the issues with the recent Pokemon games on Nintendo Switch, like Scarlet and Violet or Legends Arceus, and Pokemon Legends CA, which released a week ago, and the future of Pokemon.
Exactly. Let's talk about our beginnings with these games. Like for me, my first Pokemon game was actually the first Pokemon game that released in Europe. Like Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue was what people in my schoolyard had, and with a Game Boy. And I used to be the kid that didn't have a Game Boy, but if somebody lent me their copy and said, when we had recess or something, oh, you want to grind some levels, I would always be glad to do it because I was always drawn to these games. And what about you, Zach? What was your first Pokemon game?
My first Pokemon game was Pokemon Yellow on the 2DS.
Yeah, I transferred the data later.
So yeah, Pokemon Yellow was my first Pokemon game, and it was really cool because it was the Kanto region and a very good entry point for Pokemon. You always had Pikachu behind you, and he was your little buddy. That was really fun, and I just got to discover the whole world of Pokemon in this first game that was released, really, just the special edition, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I really love that you were able to experience it that way, because I feel even though these games are very old-fashioned and they are outdated in a lot of ways, I think the way that you experience the world and just where Pokemon comes from, I think Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow especially, since it has kind of nicer graphics, better sprites, better in that sense, I think it's a really good entry point. That's why I gave it to you as your first game, even though I already had Pokemon Y and then later Pokemon Omega Ruby. I already had other Pokemon games for the 3DS that you could play, but I wanted to give you that entry point and also to see how you reacted, because these games, they can be tough, they can be difficult at times. If you don't know the type matchups, you have to learn the hard way, so to speak, in a lot of places.
Yeah, there was some rather hard spots, but I never really struggled with the game because it's a long time back, but I just know that once I played Pokemon Crystal, and I finished the first city, and I trained my Pokemon actually quite well, because Dad told me that the first battle against your rival is pretty tough. That exactly has his starter Pokemon is the opposite type of yours that can defeat your Pokemon.
Yeah, it used to be like that with all the old Pokemon games.
But it wasn't with Yellow.
Oh, in Pokemon Yellow it's different, because you only got Pikachu.
Because you only got Pikachu,
and your opponent, according to what you do, they evolve their Eevee into a different evolution. And it's strange. It has different triggers. It's a bit complicated.
Yeah, no, I just know that that was really hard because it was exactly opposing, and then I had the Togepi, which didn't really wasn't the strongest Pokemon either.
Yeah.
And I trained all of them, and I trained them more and more every time I lost, and I just didn't get further, and at some point I made it. And
that's the second generation of Pokemon. It's tougher, because in the second generation, Gold, Crystal, and Silver, you kind of have you have to grind a bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
But also you have to do it in the tall grass most of the time. You don't have a lot of opportunities to just train your Pokemon on different trainers. So unless you can trade Pokemon, it's really tough just leveling up these Pokemon you get sometimes.
Oh yeah, I was a lot in the high grass and
Yeah.
just wild Pokemon that were then at some point also so much weaker that I didn't get a lot of XP either. So
That's
really,
but that's the game mechanic, kind of. Also from back in the day, I think this is one of the things that you could improve upon, like, and they have improved
They
upon
did,
because
definitely,
they
yeah.
changed the experience in a way that you can choose your own adventure more so. But I think for me, my first Pokemon game was not really my first Pokemon game, but everyone's first Pokemon game, because my best friend played Pokemon. We played Pokemon Stadium. We did a lot of battling. I got lent a Pokemon Game Boy Color with a Pikachu on it, and Pokemon Yellow. It was so to speak, that Pokemon game. That was one where I had a Mew on it. My friend had a Mew.
Whoa.
And and I trained that Mew to level 100, and I was like, I'm going to train these Pokemon so much. And I trained all my favorite Pokemon. I had a Dragonite. I remember I then went new game on that save file at some point because I just wanted to have that feeling, and then I accidentally pressed save and I overwrote his save file. And I was so sorry. My dad, I think, returned the Game Boy because I didn't see that friend for a long time after that. I wonder to this day if he was very mad. Marcus was his name. So anyway, I really had that experience where you had the schoolyard, people trading with the Game Boys, and then everyone was into Pokemon. And I remember I was the one who didn't have a Game Boy on my own, and I didn't have a copy of any Pokemon game, but I was the kid who knew everything about
you were
the
most
Pokemon.
knowledgeable.
Yeah,
but your dad.
Yeah, well, it was mostly because I read all the strategy guides. Like, my dad bought me one book that was kind of an adventure tale, but it also was a strategy guide type of. I knew when the Pokemon evolved. I knew when they learned new moves. I even knew what the differences were between blue, red, and yellow. Like, some Pokemon only learned certain moves in the yellow version, stuff like that.
Yeah, you were like, even today, if you see a move or some kind of status effect, you exactly know what it does just by the name.
Well,
and like, people even called you the Pokemon professor.
Well, my friends and my cousin and stuff called me that, but it was really more of an honorary title. Like, but it's funny nowadays. I cannot do that anymore because
as well. Like, but you can't still.
Well, like, they have changed a lot of moves. You have to say so. Some moves have been nerfed, so now they're different.
I played Brilliant Diamond, which we're still going to talk about later, and you were just watching me and like telling me all these different things. I was just so astonished. How can you know all this stuff?
Well, once you've put your 1,000 hours into Pokemon, and I definitely have put 1,000 hours or something, or even more into these games. No, into all the games. Like, it just accumulates. The Pokemon games they operate on the same systems, and the system just keeps evolving. So, like, sometimes they add a little bit, but none of it really messes too much. They have been only a few times when they really changed they have never changed the core formula, but like the battling system and the type system and all that, they only changed that a few times. They only introduced 3 new types of the course of the franchise and stuff like that. But they have added moves, changed how moves worked, but in the end it's still Pokemon. It's still around turn-based, and the stats still work mostly the same.
It's very funny because I always loved Pokemon, and I knew that there was RPGs my dad was playing, and it never really clicked with me that Pokemon is an RPG because it's somehow so different and so unique, and it's Pokemon. Yeah.
That's what I think. Pokemon is a really good first JRPG because it's so natural. Kids already want to Never mind the old Pokemon games. They are grindy JRPGs. You level up a bunch of characters, but mostly we laugh and call it an A button mashing simulator nowadays. Yeah, especially when we play these old Pokemon games. But
that's with a lot of different JRPGs.
I mean, JRPGs do have an element of grinding. Like, I think the good JRPGs make it more snappy and faster and more fun to do the grinding, but it's still grinding. Like I recently played through Final Fantasy X.
I just want to say,
and that has a bunch of grinding in it, and I was out leveling stuff, and then I came across this one opponent who had a special ability that could like confuse my party, and suddenly my party was all confused and poisoned, and they killed each other, and I went game over out of nowhere, even though I thought, I was already out leveling these guys, and I just got unlucky, and because I did not have a protection from the status effect. So grinding can still be a fun element, but keep you on your toes. Like.
But no, definitely.
In Pokemon, you do not have that as much. Wild Pokemon are not often a threat in the game.
Yeah, so I was watching you when you were playing Final Fantasy 10, and then I was like, this really looks like Pokemon, actually. Yeah. It's just humans or whatever, and versus creatures that you send out.
I think the Pokemon idea, it came from a Dragon Quest game. Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy are kind of the granddaddy and grandmom of JRPGs, and it's really interesting because in one of the earlier, I don't know if it's Dragon Quest 3 or 4 or something like that, they had a system where you were capturing and battling monsters that you are against each other. And Pokemon essentially just said, what if we take the system that is a part of this other game and then just make that the game? Like, you don't need to have someone who is capturing who is also a fighter, or just have the monsters fight. And I think that is also very important. Like,
wasn't it also something like the creator was imagining about, like, because he was catching a lot of bugs, and he let the bugs fight against each other.
Yeah. The Satoshi Tajiri. Satoshi is even the name of Ash in the Pokemon anime. So that is the main character. He made the first 2 Pokemon games.
Yeah, so he liked to play with bugs he caught outside and let them fight against each other for the meat, and that's why he invented Pokemon.
He also loved the outdoors. Like, I think these are the elements of the old Pokemon games that make them so attractive, is that they invoke these 2 things, that children love animals and children love the idea of collecting animals and having these cute animals and then evolving them and making them stronger. But also friendship. Friendship is a very central theme. And the third pillar of
especially
Pokemon,
in Pokemon Yellow. That's
of course. Every Pokemon, like in the remakes to Pokemon Gold and Silver, you can have any Pokemon follow you. Or in the modern Pokemon games, like Let's Go Pikachu, you can also have every Pokemon follow you.
That is actually true. Like, you develop a very strong bond with your
partner. They call Pokemon. It your partner, right?
But not only your starter Pokemon or your partner, you develop a bond with every single Pokemon you have in your team normally.
Yeah,
if you
of
have
course.
The Pokemon in your team for the whole game.
You have an attachment to your team.
Yeah, it's actually pretty magical. There's like a Pokemon in Brilliant Diamond, which I played, that wasn't that good, and I had better ones with even higher level. But it was just that I didn't want to bench it because I just wanted to keep it in my team.
Yeah.
Which is sad.
I know that feeling. I have trained Beedrill before, and Beedrill is not a good Pokemon, but I loved it so much as a kid. It was. I tried to make it work, and I had to over-level so much stuff with Beedrill to make Beedrill beat anything. Anyway, so yeah, I think these are this third pillar of Pokemon has always been kind of outdoors and the nature. Like, the feeling, you could tell that the people who made the first Pokemon games and envisioned this world, they loved nature because they modeled it after a version of Japan, of the Kanto and Johto region.
Yeah, that's, I think, like a state, a region.
Yeah, they imagine it in a way that humans have not, like, destroyed all these forests and built these huge cities. They've built some cities, but mostly it's very, like, nature is still there. You have to travel through nature to get from place to place. And this is, I think, also something that speaks to the
which is a little bit different in the late Pokemon games, too. You have trains there.
Yeah, you have more of
modern transportation,
Yeah, but I think the core tenet is still there, that you travel through nature with your Pokemon partners.
Definitely,
right?
You always have that. Yeah.
But, so my experience with the old Pokemon games, to be short, started there with the Game Boy games, and then I got a Game Boy Advance, which I worked very hard for at school when I was 14. So that's over 10 years ago now, over 20 years ago now. and and I remember I got this copy of Pokemon Leaf Green, which was the remake of the first Pokemon game. And then that summer I played with my cousin. We traded Pokemon wirelessly over the little wireless adapter that was in the game.
Did you get a real Game Boy Advance, or wasn't it a Game Boy Advance SP?
I got the Game Boy Advance SP, since it's just the best version of the Game Boy Advance. It has a backlight, and this is really
that's the biggest pro on that. And you can it's smaller if you
exactly.
storage it.
Yeah, and then I also played Pokemon Emerald. So the Game Boy Advance generation was really I had a Pokemon Gold before on the Game Boy, and played a lot of Pokemon Gold, Silver, and also Crystal with friends. But later in the DS generation, I kind of fell off. I got interested in other things, other games, and I only recently rediscovered this Pokemon DS generation, and so
where we got a lot of Pokemon games from.
Yeah, from a friend when she was kind of quitting, and she was like, "Oh, you want to have these Pokemon games for Zac?" And I was like, "Yeah, well, I think Zac would love to replay some old Pokemon games at some point." Yeah. It's better since we have 2 copies of almost everything, and
which is really cool, because then we can trade our Pokemon too and get the full Pokédex.
We've been saying for a while now that we should play a Pokemon game each and trade and try to get every single one. But
tell us if we should do that.
Yeah, you can tell us in the comments if you would like to hear from that. So, Zac, what is your experience with the more modern Pokemon games? Like, I got a Nintendo 2DS and then a 3DS, and I had the Game Boy 3DS Pokemon games. You didn't play so much, but just a little when you were in elementary school.
I played Pokemon Y, which was really fun because I have a lot of really great memories with that game. I don't remember the game itself instinctively, which is really funny, but more the things I did around the game. So the game was fun, and I really enjoyed it to level up, and I played it with a friend of mine. We were both in the same tram to go to school, and we always secretly played on our 3D and my 3DS Pokemon Y, so our parents wouldn't know that we were playing. And then sometimes we missed the tram stop for our school, and we rode just another lap because we were so early already still. And then sometimes while work, we were able to do our stuff by ourselves, so we sat down in the hall behind a pillar and secretly played Pokemon Y after we finished our work, because normally after you finish the homework or the schoolwork, you get more schoolwork, and we were saying we are not finished yet, but really we were already finished, and we were just playing Pokemon Y, which is...
It's interesting because this is kind of an authentic experience for the handheld console. Like, we did that same stuff when we were little. My mom used to tell me, go to bed, stop playing video games. And then what we used to do, we would have a little headstand lamp that we would have next to our bed. And we would put the bed sheet over the lamp and cover ourselves.
But did you still need that for the SP?
Well, for the SP, not. No. But for the old Game
Boy.
For
the old Game Boy.
And then you had turned on the lamp, and then you played under your bedsheet. You still kept playing. And this is kind of funny that, like, so many years after our time, kids still do the same stuff at school.
Well, nowadays the handheld devices, the only ones we have, are so big, and... Yeah, the 3DS was large.
Kids
too,
mostly play on their phones anyway, on the smartphones. Like,
that is true.
No one brings their Nintendo Switch to school, even the kids who have them, right?
Yeah, and mostly they're not allowed.
Have you ever seen a Nintendo Switch at your school?
Yes, when I took mine along myself.
Yeah, well.
But that's the only thing, yeah. So...
Yeah, but talk about your experience with the Nintendo Switch generation of Pokemon games, because you played a lot more of them than me.
Yeah, so I played Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, and it was really interesting because I had just played Pokemon Yellow till, like, I think I had 7 gyms and I was almost done with the game. And then I played some Pokemon Y, as I was just saying. So suddenly now I played Let's Go Pikachu, which had these Pokemon Go elements of throwing the ball and catching the Pokemon.
But from the structure,
it's exactly the same game as Pokemon Yellow.
It's a remake.
It's a
one
remake,
remake of that original game. Yeah,
for sure.
It's funny because Kanto already got a remake on the Game Boy Advance, but
But
Pokemon Yellow,
I think it was smart too, because it was the first special edition for the Nintendo Switch too, like the one. But it was the first special edition, and they sold a lot of units with that.
Well, and also people are just so familiar. Like they also called it Let's Go because it coincided with the Pokemon Go craze.
Yeah.
And they wanted to capitalize on that.
And they also put more like Pokemon Go elements in it too.
Yeah, it was very easy to catch Pokemon.
I think
you didn't have to battle them at all if you
they're
didn't
really
want to.
trying to get everything out of Kanto they can. And at the one point I understand the fans that are saying we got enough Kanto, but on the other side I also think, I guess it's cool because if we get another Kanto remake in 10 years or something with the newest graphics, there is a graphical difference because between Leaf Green and Fire Red to Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu. So I think it made sense for them in that situation, definitely. So that was fun, but the only difference between them, except the Pokemon Go elements with the throwing the ball, was really it was so much easier. All the battles were easier, and your Pikachu was so much stronger. The opponents were so much weaker, and there was not a single challenge in that game, really. There was the second Poké Center, I think, where there was this circus guy. He gave you attacks that were so strong, you could one-hit every single Pokemon till,
for
the
example,
end of the game. Of
the first gym is Brock in Pokemon Yellow.
Yeah.
And in Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu as well. And you get taught a move right before you go and battle Brock, who has all these ground and rock type Pokemon, right? And you go and battle him, and you get a move that beats him.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah, but just
that
before.
lets your Pikachu beat these Pokemon that usually are immune to to all the electric moves from Pikachu.
Yeah, that's a great example of what they were doing. It was a move that just deleted every single Pokemon in the first and second gym. It wasn't fun at a point. So I put Pikachu out of my team. It was still very easy, but it was not that easy. And it was, in the end, I played quite a lot of that game, and at some point I was like, why don't I just finish Pokemon Yellow on the 3DS now? And then I finished it on the 3DS. And that's when I came back to Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu again. But it was a little bit, a lot, so I didn't finish Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu because,
There was enough Kanto for you.
It was enough Kanto for me, exactly.
And then we got Pokemon
Sword and Shield.
Pokemon Shield, rather.
Pokemon Shield for the next holiday.
I always asked you which version you wanted to get. And I remember you wanted to get Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu because your friend Mina said she would definitely get Pokemon Let's Go Eevee because Eevee is her favorite. And for Pokemon Sword and Shield, I remember you just liked the Pokemon better, like Zamazenta.
Yeah, Zamazenta. I really liked her, and I understand all the Asian fans, but I think he's rather mid to Zamazenta. And I really liked Zamazenta a lot. As well as just my friends all had Pokemon Sword, because it was like, for the boys, the sword and everything. Pretty silly, but I got Pokemon Shield because I like the Pokemon.
Talk about that was the first proper next gen Pokemon game on the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah,
Let's Go Eevee didn't count really somehow.
Yeah,
but
I got the water Pokemon. I forgot its name. I really like the last evolution of that, which is like a agents.
Yeah, it's like an assassin.
It's
with
like an assassin
with a water
gun.
precision gun.
Yeah, and that's a really cool Pokemon. I love Pokemon Shield and Sword and Shield, and like all in all, because it was also a big part of my childhood in the same way. It was really funny because I got the game, started to play it like the first hour or so, then I had to go to bed. I already got my starter and everything. And then, a few days later, Nintendo had a pop-up store in Vienna. It was really fun because they had all these different games. That was just the season of Luigi's Mansion 3 and Pokemon Sword and Shield, as well as Mario Maker 2. And I went down one day with my uncle.
Uncle Mike, shout out if you're listening.
It was really fun because there was these events of the Nintendo pop-up store they had, and one of the events was a Pokemon Shield play through, and it was not from start to beginning, just the first 2 hours. So there was this moderator, the event guy from Nintendo. He was asking a volunteer to play Pokemon Shield on the big stage. And I didn't volunteer, really. He pointed me out and asked me, and then my uncle pushed me to the stage. But I did it, and I really just played. And he was talking about the game and telling the people what I'm doing, and there was a big crowd too. And that was like one of the best experiences of my life, to be honest. In the end, I actually got a huge goodie bag because like...
Yeah, we're so happy that day.
A big backpack, a lot of Luigi's Mansion 3 keychains. I still have one on my key. We got Mario
Cappy,
Maker.
Right?
I got Cappy too.
From Mario
Odyssey, which is really cool. I got a big Mario Maker 2 towel, which I still use to date. It's really fun. And that was 2019 or something. So, quite a long time ago. This is, it was really cool.
Yeah.
So...
But what did you think about Sword and Shield, the game? How did you enjoy that generation of Pokemon? For you, it was kind of your first game that you played through all the way on your own.
Yeah, it was so much more than Kanto too, because I really loved it because it had these different things just implemented that I'd never seen before. Like, there was these wild zones where you could just roam around freely. There was trains, and you could interact with a lot of people, which you could do in Kanto too, but it was also much better graphics and different things. Like, I really liked it because of the new Pokemon I didn't know too. And the whole cities were so much more immersive than just a small town. They did that really well. They also really gave you the impression as if you're in a big stadium when you're fighting in the gym. And no, it was a great game. Even this just really, I loved it. And I played through the game, have a lot of hours in Pokemon Shield too.
Did you trade a lot with your friends?
I traded quite a bit with the
because I remember everyone had that game.
Everyone had it, and everyone had Sword. So everybody wanted my Shield Pokemon.
Exclusive Pokemon.
Yeah, exclusive Pokemon.
Cool.
So there was this, I remember distinctly, I went into the gloomy mushroom woods of this one gym, and I went into them because there was one Pokemon that they couldn't get, and that was only in the Shield version.
You remember the Pokemon?
Yeah, it was some kind of mushroom that was glowing. I didn't remember the name, but it was a Galar,
a Galar exclusive.
Galar exclusive, a new one.
Okay.
That was just for Shield, and then I traded it with other exclusives that are just for Sword. So that was pretty cool. And then sometimes I also traded to Evolve. Yeah, we did trade quite a bit. It was really fun. Also, they had this campsite where you could feed your Pokemon. They had really delicious different visuals of foods, and there was so many cool systems, and I really liked this game.
What system did you like the most? Like, I know from the modern games you kind of experienced like the feeding Pokepuffs to Pokemon on Pokemon Y. You love doing that. You always wanted, because you were also very little, you liked just feeding Pokemon and watching them go happy.
Feeding the Pokepuffs was the coolest thing with Pokemon Y. And with Sword and Shield, they had this campsite where you could use the berries and the food you collected in the game to make different meals, and then give them to your Pokemon and play with them, throw a ball, and pet them, and they were really happy, and they were really cute, and they were so detailed, much more detailed than in the game too. So I loved this campsite. That was really cool. I spent countless hours in that campsite.
I think these, besides the battling mini games that are like immersive or just experiences, I think Pokemon has gotten better at making them be interesting and feel cool and versatile.
For sure,
Like they've only evolved that over the years, and I've heard in the most recent games, in Scarlet and Violet, you can have your Pokemon like pick up part-time jobs and earn some money for you. Like
they did that with
like a small
Pokemon
business.
Sword and Shield already.
You already had the job system.
Yeah, you already
there.
had the job system. That's something I didn't use that much because it wasn't such a big deal in Sword and Shield. Maybe they did that better in Scarlet and Violet. It was like, okay, you could just send off all your bench Pokemon and pick up some Pokédollars for you. But it wasn't ever like you had a need for Pokédollars either, and it was just
a time sink.
So I did it for fun. It was also interesting because there was different jobs, and like, okay, they needed a construction worker, so I would put my Geodude there, or
or a matchup or something.
Something like that. Or for different things, there was different Pokemon that were perfect. And it didn't say that. It just said a job description and you should find a Pokemon for that.
Yeah.
That was the fun part about the jobs, but it didn't really use the jobs. That's what I'm trying to say.
Understand. Yeah. Did you play Pokemon Scarlet or Violet at all, Zach?
No, I didn't
Do you know, kids? Well, I remember I didn't get it to you because you didn't play through the last Pokemon game I got you, Brilliant Diamond.
At that point.
Yeah, and I was like, well, if you didn't play through the last Pokemon game you got for Christmas, why should I get you another one? So, yeah, you didn't seem too interested in the new Pokemon game.
Maybe there was also just the time of my life and my age, and what the other kids were also playing. Everybody was just playing Zelda and all these games.
Yeah, you like the communal experience. That's true. You are more likely to play a game if everyone's interested in it.
Yeah, like if everybody is playing Fall Guys, I also play Fall Guys.
Yeah, I know.
Like
and that's kind of the thing with Pokemon. Pokemon's always been that for kids, and it's cool to see that the newer generation also feels that way, because for us it definitely was that everyone just played Pokemon. And so everyone was in on it, you know?
Yeah, so if nobody plays Pokemon, then nobody will have this experience. It was also the other thing that me and my friend with whom I was playing Pokemon Y with in the tram and in our school, we were the two people that had Pokemon Sword and Shield when it released. Because at that point, not all of the kids, most of the kids in school had a Switch. They got that.
You did.
I did, and he did. So most of the kids got their Switch with Pokemon, rather when we were done with Pokemon already. So they didn't really have this experience of playing Pokemon all together. And that's maybe also the reason why they didn't get the new Pokemon then too. And I was also in a different school at that point. So yeah. Then you got me Pokemon Brilliant Diamond for...
Yeah, you got it for Christmas when it released.
And I started playing it. I finished the first gym or the first two gyms, but as
you didn't really get groove with it too much.
I didn't. Yeah, it was more like, because it gave me it's a remake, and I didn't love the art style, this chibi look, and it was just so. It really gave me the feelings of a 2D game, even though I just had experienced Let's Go and the wild areas and Sword and Shield and all of these things.
It feels like a step back. I can
it
totally
feels
see
like
that.
a step back, and it all was not that modern. And what I really loved about Sword and Shield was it had so many new things. It was not just the old things, but other Pokemon. And this was more of the same what I already experienced with Kanto. That's the feeling I got at that point.
It's funny that you feel that way, because most people who play Pokemon games, after they play their second or third game, they kind of get that feeling, oh, this is more of the same. What am I doing here? It's just kind of because Pokemon games always have the same structure, and I'll talk about that a bit if you want me to, like the evolution of the games of this game series, right?
Yeah, I mean that's also very interesting. It's just so, but what I wanted to say was that really I didn't get into Brilliant Diamond that quickly.
Yeah, but you finished it this summer.
I finished it this summer. Then when I was like, okay,
you wanted to play Pokemon Legends.
I wanted to play Pokemon Legends Arceus because Legends CA was announced. We have seen it too. We had seen it at that point, and I wanted to play Arceus because I thought that looks really cool. And Dad was telling me,
and it also had great great reviews, right? People were saying this is a really special game.
Good. Yeah. So my dad was telling me, I'll get you Arceus, but only if you play through Brilliant Diamond. So that's what I did, and I put my 30 hours into Brilliant Diamond, and it was really fun. Didn't finish the post-game, but maybe I'll come back to that game, definitely, and the Battle Tower and everything. But that was pretty cool, and also just listening to my dad's stories in the summer holidays of the different special editions of Pokemon and what were the differences between every every generation of Pokemon. What was differences between the base games, what was the story behind it, and what was the different story to the special edition and everything. Let us know if we should do an episode about that too, because I thought that was so interesting.
Yeah. When
you were telling me that we were in Greece, and just that was really cool.
Yeah, we can definitely talk about that a bit. Yeah, and then you played Pokemon Arceus. How did you like that?
And then I played Pokemon Arceus. I put 15 hours in that, and I didn't finish it, as you see, because
You started playing Donkey Kong Bonanza.
I started playing Donkey Kong Bonanza, exactly. So, Pokemon Arceus was
Do you think Pokemon Arceus is a good direction for the Pokemon games? Is it good? Do you think...
Pokemon Arceus, not the battle system in Pokemon Arceus, yes.
Mm-hmm. So, you like the battle system in Pokemon Arceus?
Yes. I've never played CA. I'm hoping to get it for Christmas. But, it's really the battle system that you have in, Arceus is just so great because it's not such a big difference from the system. It's just the speed stat is a little bit different, I think, and you don't have a whole sequence where you go to your different background area and there's another wild Pokemon is out or anything.
There's no loading screen.
There's no loading screen. That's the best thing. It just goes into cinema mode and you're in the fight, and then it's still turn-based. It's not like it's live fights. That's what you have in Pokemon Legends CA then, but we'll talk a little bit more about CA just in a few minutes. Arceus was really fun. The biggest issue I have with Arceus, it was really a Pokemon catch simulator, I had the feeling. You had almost...
Yeah, you said that the game was very grindy and it was all about catching a lot of
get up in the ranks.
Same type of Pokemon lots of times to level up.
For sure, yeah.
To level up your...
You didn't have a lot of fights, almost none. And to get into the next area, you would have to have a expedition rank, or what the name was. And to have this rank, you need to catch this amount of Pokemon. It was a lot of Pokemon. So I when the expedition leader told me, oh yeah, still need to catch some Pokemon. I thought, okay, I'll just go out and catch 20 Pokemon with my 20 Pokeballs I have. And then I get money and buy more Pokeballs. So I did that and then bought more Pokeballs and went to the leader again, and she was telling me, yeah, you need to catch more Pokemon, and then another 20. And then she told me more Pokemon, and then another 20. And then she told me more Pokemon. And at some point I was like, are you kidding me? And I wasn't, was maybe half of the game or something. And I thought that was very ridiculous somehow, the threshold they had for that. And then I got Bonanza, and I just totally threw me off, because Bonanza is a
different game.
A very different game, which is so cool and so fun. We'll do an episode about Bonanza and Mario Kart later this year, and too, about the whole Switch 2 launch and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what experiences did you have? Did you play any Pokemon games in the Switch era?
Well, I started playing Pokemon Shield as well.
On your account.
Yeah, but I didn't really get too far. I liked and enjoyed it for what it was, but like it threw me off. Like I've been, my whole modern Pokemon experience is like when I got this 2DS, I got back into Pokemon because I was hooked again when I started playing.
Yeah, which games did you play on the 2DS and on the 3DS?
Well, first I played Pokemon Yellow, then afterwards I got Pokemon Y, and that was really fun, and it was really cool seeing the Pokemon in 3D and all these new features and systems, but the game was so easy. Like, not even the last few Elite Four champion battles, there was nothing in the post-game that was really challenging. Like with the older Pokemon games, you had some systems that had challenging post-game content that was really cool. And I was kind of missing that from the modern games. Then I played Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, which I loved because that was also my favorite Generations remake.
Wait, but with X and Y, they cut the special edition then, right?
They did not have a special edition.
They did not have one.
Yeah,
they put
changed
that in
content
Sun and Moon with Zygarde.
They put that somehow in there. Like they shoehorned Zygarde, which was supposed to be the Z Pokemon to X and Y. They put that as a special side quest into Pokemon Sun and Moon. And yeah, I also got Pokemon Sun and Ultra Moon afterwards. And I finished through Pokemon Sun. And that was really the game, the Pokemon game that kind of broke me, because and it got me off Pokemon for a while. I let you play more after that, because it had like Pokemon Sun had a story that was really interesting and cool, and I liked that story. But at the same time, the story really made you stop and go so often, because it used to be like, oh, there is
Didn't you have these mounts where you could ride on the Pokemon?
Yeah, you had that Pokemon system where you got rid of the hidden moves, where you could just ride around on your Pokemon that you summoned. Cool. That is awesome. That is the best thing that they did in Pokemon in a long time. But what I didn't like was just that the dialogue and the games, like, the story just took so much of your game time, when all I wanted to do was keep going and keep playing. Yeah. And this is also why my issue with some other older Pokemon games is that when I'm playing them, it feels so slow. Like, when I play Pokemon nowadays, I mostly turn off battle animations and turn it to set mode, so that the Pokemon game doesn't prompt me to change Pokemon every time I beat an opposing Pokemon. Because I just want to get it over with fast. And I turn on the Pokemon animations when I have a gym battle or something like that, where I really want to feel it. Mm-hmm. But most of the time I just don't, because I don't have the time of day. And that is really what I really like. As an older gamer, I value games that appreciate my time and the time I spent with these games. And with Pokemon, they are grindy RPGs, and I really don't feel that they do that. Like Pokemon Sun really was the straw that broke the camel's back.
But you finished it.
I finished Pokemon Sun, but I couldn't bring myself, even though I got it, to play through Pokemon Ultra Moon afterwards, because I saw it was the same stuff. And that was also the same stuff in Pokemon Sword and Shield, where whenever something happened or some event was, the screen would turn black. There was a short load time that someone just... There was unskippable dialogue for some reason. And then afterwards, I could go on. Like, for you, this is amazing because you feel immersed, right? But for me, I'm like, why can't I skip this dialogue?
I think I'm not very sure, so take this with a grain of salt. But in Pokemon Sword, it was pretty fluid. Like, you ran into a Pokemon and it instantly...
No, it was better. Like, there were
better,
actual load times in Pokemon Sun.
That is crazy, yeah.
They were not able to do...
I ran into a Pokemon in the Wild Zone and it instantly brought me to this new screen of, a wild Pokemon appeared. Something
that battle thing always works. That is always great in Pokemon.
Yeah.
That's always been great. But they did not, like what you said earlier about Pokemon Arceus, where it's seamless. There's
really
a Pokemon
seamless,
battle
100%.
and then just the battle begins because you encountered the Pokemon. There's no need to have a loading screen.
It just turns into cinema mode and then the battle starts.
Yeah, they haven't figured that out with Pokemon Sun and Moon for the animations, because these were the first Pokemon games in 3D.
I do have to say...
In proper 3D.
Oh, yeah,
And they did not have it figured out yet how to make characters move towards each other and then have a dialogue and have that in the game without a cutscene. They were not able... Because these games, they came out every other year. So... They were kind of rush jobs as well. We'll get to that later. But I think this was one of the results of that. They were not able to figure it out how to make it seamless. And this takes so much of your time as a player. But, I really could not bring myself to go back to Pokemon afterwards. I'm trying to get back to Pokemon now.
With old games.
I'm just starting to play these older games.
You should really maybe play Shield, because we have it and it's really fun.
I absolutely plan on doing that. But first I want to finish all the old games that I've skipped in between, because I haven't played through any of the Pokemon DS games. And I'm replaying Pokemon Platinum right now, actually. But that's just fun. Casually on the DSi, because it's a great little system. Yeah. Zac, you've been following everything around all these things, and I've also gotten wind of some issues that more recent Pokemon games have had. Like, what about these issues, in especially Scarlet and Violet? Like, Scarlet and Violet actually got a free Nintendo Switch 2 update, because the original version on the Switch 1
was so bad.
Even the fixed version had so many issues. It was so bad. Frame drops.
So it launched
disappearing artifacts, like the player, like, visibility not working properly, glitches, the vision range, everything.
It was really bad because it was the first 100% open world Pokemon game. I didn't play it, I just got wind of it, and so it was the first, like, in Sword and Shield you had these wild zones which were open world and very big. There was the one wild zone, really.
Yeah, it was in between two cities, and it was a big area.
It was a huge area. And they, pretty much with Scarlet and Violet, what I understand, they just put that to the whole game. And that's pretty much what they did with Arceus too.
Yeah, and you could, in Scarlet Violet, from what I know, you could choose in what order you do the gyms. So if you just wanted to challenge one of the more difficult gyms, or go into one of the more difficult areas, nothing is stopping you, except that you probably get your butt kicked.
Yeah, and you also had the small motorcycle that was really fast, and it had real frame issues.
Pokemon.
Yeah, motorcycle Pokemon, yeah. It had huge frame issues, that was one of the worst things, and then just the graphics were really bad, the resolution, and so many glitches, so many bugs, it was catastrophic, and that was because it was a rushed game, as almost every Pokemon game is, which we found out more just with the recent Terra leak too. I think with Pokemon...
Actually, I don't think that the old Pokemon games were all that rushed.
That is probably true. It was more really the most recent games that there was always quite a lot of issues, especially with the last two that we've seen. Legends Arceus and Scarlet and Violet. They had both catastrophic graphics where it really bugged you when you were playing it.
Arceus was okay,
Arceus
but it really
was okay.
The problem was
But it
really
wasn't
that the
so much
game
better.
wasn't that like when I look at the graphics in Arceus, I'm like, this is fine, but it doesn't feel like compare it with a game like Monster Hunter Rise, which was also
yeah.
developed for the Switch. That game, or Zelda Breath of the Wild, that game looks
But-
so much better, even though it's for the same system, for the same generation.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. But it's also like Arceus didn't look that much better than Scarlet and Violet in the end. They just polished it a little bit more, so it didn't have so many big bugs
then
and
again,
glitches.
if you look at it, like the history of these games, Pokemon Sun and Moon kind of have the same graphics than Sword and Shield. Sword and Shield just has a bit better stuff that they could do with the graphics, but it feels like this is an evolution from the 3DS games. So that's why also the graphics are kind of stuck there.
I also think that with Sword and Shield, you were running into a wild Pokemon, even in the wild area, and then it still gave you that cutscene. I think the future of Pokemon is really that we're getting this Arceus seamless, like just
Immersive.
running into a very immersive gameplay.
But also for battles
still-
with other trainers, right?
But also for battles with other trainers, and it is still being round battle based.
Turn-based.
Turn-based.
Yeah. I think the
turn-based, yeah.
mainline games will stay that way.
Exactly, but Arceus style, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think that's what is, maybe not next generation, but it will come to that. Because I think Legends ZA is really then taking the next step to the Legends series where it's not turn-based battle. And you can actually, the Pokemon follows you and you have to like jump so the attack doesn't hit your Pokemon and then it missed. And
Yeah, like a real-time combat game.
it's a real-time combat
where
game.
they have these...
And it's a lot more complex than too.
Yeah, well, my
So-
hopes for Pokemon's future is, have you heard of the Pokemon Battle Simulator, the new one? Pokemon, it's not called...
Oh, yeah, what was its
it's not-
name?
it's
Champion.
Pokemon Champions,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. And I think with them introducing Pokemon Champions where you have a dedicated battle simulator, I hope that gives them more freedom with the mainline games to do, like, to still have the turn-based combat system in there, but to make the games less about, oh, we teach all these intricate systems, they are there, but you do not have to interact with all of them or have a tutorial
Because you
for
have
each
Pokemon
one of them,
Champions.
because you can put the complex part of Pokemon battling into Pokemon Champions, which is for more competitive gamers.
But I still think that you should have this like tutorial stuff for the mainline games to integrate it, because
but not for
kids,
every complicated
no,
part.
not
you
for
know?
every complicated part, but most kids will still just play the Pokemon games and not Champions. I mean,
Of course, no. But
that's
what I
something
mean
with
is
Pokemon
for the
Stadium,
Yeah.
too. I don't think.
absolutely. But I mean for the mainline games, I hope they do more things like Pokemon Arceus and Pokemon Legends ZA
Oh, they'll
now,
definitely do
because
more
they have
Legends
more
ZA.
freedom to just deviate from the tried and true Pokemon formula, and also do more interesting things with the mainline games, because battling does not have to be in the center of these games anymore. You know, like, I think it's still good to have the battle simulator.
But like, I have to say, we had Arceus, and there was almost no battling in that, and I really, really missed it. Like, that's something I do have to say. I think Pokemon without battling wouldn't be Pokemon.
But now we'll see. Like, it seems that Pokemon Legends ZA is a big hit already.
Yeah, and it's very focused on battling too. Yeah, that's because that's the main criticism point on Arceus. So they really took that
Not
for
enough
Legends CA and said, okay, we'll give you all the battles you want, and we'll even put the whole focus of the game around battles, but still let you have this seamless Legends Arceus wild zone kind of thing in Lumio City. It's very fun. Like Lumio City is based on Paris, and I'll actually be in Paris.
Yeah, the whole Kalos region is based on
And
France.
it's based on France, yeah.
I still have an earworm from the music when you're with the rollerblades in Pokemon Y and you're skating through
yeah,
cars,
that's so
Lumio
cool.
City. Yeah, in
So,
Pokemon Y is where the graphics, the only city where the graphics change, and you see the tower from below while you're skating around in a circle. from through the city. You remember?
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, from what I've gathered, the new Pokemon Legends ZA game has been received really well by fans. Have you heard anything about that? I know you're much more connected and in sync with what's going on than me.
Yeah, the reviews and in general, like, a lot of players really love it, and it's really what they did was they took Lumio City, which was a big city for Pokemon games, but of course not as huge, and then expanded it in a real city where the whole game is in Lumio City. You can't go outside, you don't have anything else than the city, and it's cool because it's so dense too. And then they have the wild zones where you can catch Pokemons in day, and there's a lot of quests in Lumio City on the day, and at some point it dawns and then it's night, and then you have battles in the wild zones where you get up the rank from Z to A, and at the same time you're working together with AZ and this detective Emma that we already know from X and Y to find out what these mysterious new mega evolved Pokemon are, and like Mega Victorville, yeah.
Anyway, but I think you have, it's a great point because, like, I remember cruising around Lumio City that felt so big because it was the first 3D Pokemon game and it was the first big city from Kalos region on Pokemon X and Y, and now they blew it up. Like, you know that feeling when you're in a game and you're like, wow, I see all these buildings, what if I could go inside all of them? And then you play an open world game where you actually can do that. I'm really looking forward to exploring more of Lumio's city.
Yeah,
in Pokemon
I don't think
Legends
you can really
no,
go into every building.
I don't expect them to allow me to
but
go into
it's
every
really
building.
big, and what I heard, because it's so small, it's really dense, which is exactly what Scarlet and Violet and Arceus didn't have. That's what was also one of the main criticism points.
And it's less loose, right? It's also like it's more of a structured
it's
game
so much
experience.
more dense, as I was saying. Yeah, it's also like, oh, okay, at some point, even if you have a lot of hours into the game, you already know the city a little bit. Okay, so what do? They give you the ability to go on the rooftops, and you unlock just such a new.
Do you know if there's an underground area?
I don't know, but I think there is an underground area with like sewers and stuff like that.
Oh, that's always my favorite part.
Yeah.
Especially if there's a detective story in there.
Yeah, there's a whole detective story. Yeah.
Okay, so, maybe we'll have to get that one for Christmas.
No, I'm really excited for Pokemon Legends CA. I'm hoping we'll get that for Christmas. Yeah. And
which one is your favorite Mega Evolution?
From the new ones?
Yeah, from the new.
That's really hard. I would have to think about that.
I can tell you what my favorite Mega Evolution is. Even though my favorite Pokemon is Dragonite, my favorite Mega Evolution is definitely Victreebel. Since Victreebel was actually one of my favorite Pokemons from the first generation. And I just love what they did with it because it's so creative and goofy and just different, like with a huge belly, and then it spews acid and spills acid everywhere.
Really fun,
I kind of love that design, and I've also seen, like, you showed me the new Mega Starmie, and I thought it was just a joke or a fake or something, and now I'm like, I have to live with the idea that Mega Starmie exists because it just looks so wrong.
It's so wrong, yeah. So actually I think they made that because in Legends CA you can have your Pokemon out with you again or something.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it follows you.
It follows you,
and
yeah.
Starmie couldn't
so
just
Starmie
spin?
Couldn't just,
but Starmie used to spin around. Come on.
And they just wanted to give it legs.
I think that's a sign of a great Pokemon if it's polarizing. Like, some people like it, some people hate it. Like when Pokemon Sun and Moon came out, there was Mimikyu, and Mimikyu was this Pokemon that used to dress up as Pikachu because Pikachu was so popular, and it also wanted to be popular. And that was kind of like, you felt for Mimikyu, you know why it did that.
Yeah.
Even though it was a kind of weird design, I think a lot of people immediately loved Mimikyu. And I think these new Pokemon, you also loved Mimikyu,
I really
right?
liked Mimikyu, yeah. Even though I didn't really get the story that deep when I watched just the show.
You watched the show, but Mimikyu has personality, you know?
It really does, yeah.
Let's see, maybe Mrs. Starmie or Mr. Starmie, also, like with the feet, also has some personality in these legs.
Yeah, no, we'll tell you all about the games when we've played them ourselves too. But from now, what we've seen from Legend CA, it looks really, really cool, and we're excited for Pokemon's future for the next years and the Nintendo Switch 2, when we see a full-on developed for Nintendo Switch 2 Pokemon game.
Yeah, I'm also pretty excited about that. You still have to tell us your favorite Mega Evolution from the new games.
So in why I actually chose the fire Pokemon, like the little fox, as my starter, and I really liked her, especially her last evolution, Delphox. And she has a cool new Mega Evolution where she's on a broom, which I find pretty cool, and she's like flying around. So I like a lot of the new Mega Evolutions, and some of them I find rather okay, but I really like Mega Delphox. I would say that's my favorite new Mega Pokemon from Legends CA.
All right, and that's it for today's episode.
Thanks for listening. We hope we made your day a little bit nicer, and see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.